Hi, everybody. Welcome back to We Know You Know, a podcast about Psych. I'm Barb, and I'm joined by Matthew. And today we're going to talk about Season 2, Episode 16 of Psych. It's the last episode of the season, Matt.
Yeah, it's crazy. Season 2 has gone by so fast. I think it's been because of how awesome Season 2 was.
I agree.
Most of them were 4 or 5 stars, I feel like, although I haven't looked back at the ratings list in a little bit, so we'll have to see what the averages come out to whenever we do our next video, which will
Mm-hmm.
be the Psych 3 movie review as
Yes.
a special end of the season like bonus episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go over all the stats then as well. Mhm. But hello, everybody. If you are enjoying the show, please remember to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. As always, it makes us feel good when we see our numbers go up and know that more of you guys are enjoying the show and listening and sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Yep, as always, we want to give a shout out to the official Psych Fanatics of Facebook group and the Psych subreddit group as well. And many of our listeners are from these groups. We're so happy that you're here joining us. And there's some news from the Psych Fanatics of Facebook group this week. Looks like they're going to be at an event to support St. Jude's in February in St. Louis, and Kurt Fuller is going to be there. Sage Brocklebank will be there, and also the admin of this Psych Fanatics group, Mark Dethridge, is going to be there as well. And
What
that
about
looks
Corbin?
like I didn't hear anything about Corbin, nothing about Corbin. But so far, Sage and Kurt, how cool would it be, Matt, to go and see Sage? I mean, I would kind of like that. So we're gonna get some more information, and as we have it, we'll keep you guys updated. Certainly people who live locally in that area or, close by might want to, check that event out. So more
Yep.
details as we get them.
Yep. Looking forward to that. Maybe that's something we can make. I don't know.
Mhm.
February's hard, but we'll see. Next, we have the Psychologists Are In podcast, hosted by Maggie and Timothy. I heard that the Corbin episode they had last week was really good, although I haven't got to listen to it yet. And then also they have Andy Berman on, which I'm actually very curious about since he's one of the longtime writers, right? I believe he's one of the writers that we
Yeah, he
keep.
is a writer
Yeah.
and he was in a couple of
So
episodes too.
very curious to hear about his behind the scenes parts. So we'll definitely be checking that at some point this week.
hmm What else do we have for news, Matt? We have any emails?
Yeah, we actually have several things to talk about. So the first thing is going over all the Facebook comments for this last episode we did with Black and Tam Crime and Fashion. It was awesome. There was so many comments about like their favorite part being whenever right at the beginning when the guy insinuates that Shawn is tan. And he's like, you should be ashamed of yourself and your family. So many of those comments. A lot of those we were afraid we'd catch the wrinkles. There was some. All I remember is it was yellow and boring. Like, yeah, it was great. Lots of awesome quotes from that episode. And you guys, came in and left them there. So it's cool to see everybody remembers that episode completely.
That episode was so good.
Mhm. I do also have a comment from Wendy Harvey. She says, "Hello, Matthew and Barb. Love the podcast. When listening this week, Matthew said it was just almost ridiculous the way Shawn would not talk to his dad about his dad's possible new relationship. Barb brought up the fact that they had been apart for a while and Shawn had not settled his parents' divorce issues with his dad when he was younger. I agree with both positions because Shawn's behavior was almost childish. However, if you recall in later season, Shawn, who has always blamed his dad for his mom leaving, learns the truth that his mom left his dad. And Henry, being the man with character that he is, took the blame for it all those years, so Shawn would not be mad at his mom. Shawn had to hear it from his mom to believe it, therefore his attitude is somewhat understandable in this episode. Also, it is awkward to give dating advice to a parent. Just saying. Keep up the great work. Love the podcast. One of the reasons I love the show so much is every time I watch it, I see Matthew and Shawn. Okay, so that's also my mother and Barb's sister. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And she's co-hosted the podcast before with me.
Yes, she's been on, I think,
So
twice now.
yeah, twice, yeah. Yeah, so but she always has comments, so
I think that's a good point. That is a good
Mhm.
point that there are reasons behind, um, the divorce and the unsettled emotions between Shawn and Henry and his mother, but we don't know about those yet. We haven't
Right.
seen those episodes yet, so I don't. I mean, all right, so it can at least be mentioned
Mhm.
that there is more. I think that's fair as far as an analysis and breakdown of the show and the characters, and that's kind of what we do here.
Mhm.
But as far as like a new watcher goes, they just think that Shawn is being very childish and immature, which I guess is part of his character, but still.
But it also is a
Mhm,
reminder, like what she said is definitely a reminder of like, the core of why we like Henry so much.
mhm.
'Cause
Yeah, he's
Henry's
got
just
good
really
character
he's a
and he
good
wants to do what's
man.
right. Mhm.
Yeah, he's a good
Which
man, and he
is
wanted to
another
be the best father he could be.
reason why I'm so confused with the dislodged episode. But whatever, I'm not gonna get back on that again. All right, we did
Mhm.
also get some comments from YouTube from Michael Holst. He is an avid listener and commenter, and
Mhm.
we always love to give him a shout out whenever he leaves
Yes.
comments. So on Black and Tan, he commented only 4 pineapples. If last night Gus didn't exist, this would be the other poster child for 5 pineapples. You know what?
That's
I was trying. I was really set on 4 or 5, 4 or 5. I couldn't decide, and I decided in the moment that it should be 4.
and he decided
And
wrong.
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that. It's a very close. But when I just think about my all-time favorite episodes, I just feel like this isn't quite on it. It's not quite there. There's some things I really liked about it, and actually, believe it or not, I think that the crime element of it was actually very good. I
Mhm.
thought it was an interesting twist on, and it made sense. There wasn't like plot holes in it and stuff like that. Nothing, at least, that stood out without deeper analysis. I really enjoyed it, and it's very possible that this could have been a 5 if I watched it on another day. But that day,
It
it just felt
should've.
like there might have been something little missing. But you know what? It definitely is worth considering, and I completely understand how people have this as a five pineapple
And
rating.
let me just say, Michael, I'm glad that you pointed that out and that I'm not alone
Mhm.
in my fine 5 pineapple rating of this episode.
He did also leave a second comment here with one thing I noticed from this episode last time I watched it. Lassie says one of the models can't confirm the spelling of his own name, but Shawn later tells Gus that it was Berlinda that couldn't spell her name. Shawn just straight up lied to him to try to get him to help him with the case. Granted, that happens all the time, but it's usually more obvious and done in a silly way. That is actually a really good point that I didn't catch.
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Good
Good one,
catch, Michael.
Michael.
Good catch. We do also have one more bit. Because of the holiday, we are going to be taking 1 week off. So this episode, obviously today when this comes out is December 21st. We're going to be taking off next week. We're not going to be recording on Thursday because of Christmas. So the next episode of the show is going to come out on the new year, January 4th. And that will
It'd
be
be a
the
good
Psych
one.
3 This Is Gus end of season video where we do a complete review of the whole movie. And then we're going to go right into season 3 the week after that. So
Mhm.
look out for that. And obviously, we hope you guys enjoy the holidays and have a good time with your family as well.
Yes, please take some time, do a little psych marathon, watch the Christmas
Yeah.
episodes, something good like that, you know? You
Mhm.
can have lots of family fun with psych, so enjoy your holidays.
All right.
All right.
Barb, do you have a synopsis for us? What is this episode about? This is episode 16. What's
Mhm.
this about?
Well, this episode is called Shawn and Gus of the Dead. It originally aired on February 15th, 2008. The writer and director of this episode is Steve Franks.
All
This
right.
is Steve Franks' first directing credit on the show. He ended up directing 11 episodes and also all 3 of the movies he directed.
Well, I have complete faith in him.
I
So,
I do
mhm.
too. I feel like he was ready to be, in the director's chair. He
I mean, when the character is
clearly he knows the
essentially
show.
based off of you,
Exactly. I mean,
it
you
makes
can
it a little
direct
bit
it.
easier.
Yeah, but I do remember this as being a fun episode, and it's, I'm sure, to his
I
credit.
didn't
So
even remember the
mhm,
episode. Like, I didn't remember from the name Shawn and Gus of the Dead until I
mhm.
saw the very first image. before I hit like play. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do remember liking this episode, at least being favorably whenever I saw it. It's been a while though.
Well, it made me when I looked at the fact that Steve Franks directed, it made me think of the information that we got from the first Psychologist Are In episode of their podcast when they were talking to Steve Franks, and then they talked to James Roday Rodriguez later, and the two of them both, like, Steve Franks knew going in that they were both going to direct at some point, and
Hmm.
Steve Franks, I guess, told him, "I'm going to direct first, but you're going to direct too." So
Yeah.
this was the first one that he directed. So hopefully next season is when we'll see James Roday Rodriguez getting to direct a little bit. So anyway, the synopsis for this episode is when a 3,000-year-old mummy disappears from a museum, Shawn comes to the unlikely conclusion that the artifact walked out on its own. Meanwhile, Henry is acting strangely after receiving a mysterious phone call.
All right,
Let's dive
let's
in.
get into this. All right. So one thing that I've noticed here, we're only like 22 seconds into the episode, but this is another thing where they hint, they do that like what is it, the Rugrats thing, or I can't remember what the show was, but where they don't show the mom ever, and they do it with this. I think they've done it one or two other times throughout the whole series where you only hear Sean's mom's voice.
Or well, I mean, you see her body here, but you don't see her face.
Yeah, and I can't confirm it, but the voice also doesn't sound like it's probably anything unique, or like it sounds like it's just a generic voice
Very
talking.
nondescript, yeah. And
Mhm.
and we should point out that we're starting off this episode with Henry and
His mother
Sean's
in the
mom
flashback. Mhm.
in a flashback, and they are watching a movie.
Henry looks amazing with hair.
All
All right.
right.
So so Henry and Sean's mom, his wife, were watching a scary movie downstairs, and Sean was supposed to be in bed, but he was sneaking around, and Henry heard him
Well,
and scared him whenever he
no,
found
no,
him.
we have to do this better justice, okay? So Sean is in back of where they were, and he thinks that he's being so quiet, but Henry is always so perceptive, right? So he hears Sean, and he goes, he scares the poor little Sean. His head is around the corner, right? And then he leans back because he's like, uh-oh, did he hear me? Well, then he leans back around the corner of the room, and Henry is nowhere to be seen and scares Shawn. And then Henry jumps around the corner with his face and just scares well, he scares him. It's
Mhm.
not good. Poor little Shawn.
I just think Henry looks fantastic with hair.
It's perfect.
It looks so natural. It doesn't look fake at all to me. I'm completely fine with it. I get it. I do like that in this scene, Henry does try to, comfort Sean, at
He
least at
does.
first, and then he gets too real.
Right.
Part of Henry comforting Sean to make him not go to bed is he's saying dead bodies do not walk,
They do not
son.
walk
They don't come back. They might suddenly jolt or
or
blink,
blink.
uh,
which
which is
which is gonna make a little kid feel great before going to bed.
counterintuitive. But yeah, if it seems like he's trying to not be to not lie to Sean, but also comfort him, which is very, very strange.
He tells him sleep tight.
The look on Sean's face, he's like, I
As
don't know.
if
He seems
as
like he
if
doesn't know how he's supposed to feel. And he's like, I'm not sure
I'm
what
not sure about this. Should
what
I
did
feel
he
better?
just tell me?
Okay, so after that scene, we jump to present day, and we're at the museum, and Lassie and Jules are in the
Like called
museum.
up in the middle of the night. Like
Right.
they distinctly talk about how they're like woken up suddenly.
Yes, and Lassie's not happy.
Lassie is also preoccupied with looking for a newspaper article that should be about him whenever it, comes out. We got McNabb in this one.
I was just gonna say we got Buzz.
All right. I think that was very funny. So Lassie and Jules come up to the assistant curator, and like lastly, they introduces themselves. when she says that she's the assistant curator, Lassie just completely loses interest in her and says, I want to speak to somebody in charge. And then she jumps back in, I am in charge. I thought that was really funny how he just completely lost interest in her. Like even like his vocal tones and even his facial, like his shoulders dropped, his head looked away, like he just was completely uninterested with because of
Well,
how late it is.
we should add though that he's already mad now because McNabb has given him this paper
Yeah.
and his story's not there.
Or yeah, the story is not there. He's not mentioned at all, and it's
Right.
also like the middle of the night. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
he's not in the
there's
best mood.
lots of things that are not making Lassie happy.
He's just like, no, I want to talk to somebody. We're about 3 minutes 27 seconds in, and we have established from the assistant curator that the 3,000-year-old mummy has somehow gone missing in the middle of the night here, and as well as the security guard is missing too. Lassie thinks that it's probably just some kind of prank, but the assistant curator is not so sure. She also mentioned that the curator is in Egypt doing a dig, so he's not anywhere around.
At 4 minutes 14 seconds, we find out that the alarm from the museum was triggered from the inside, not the outside of the museum, which just adds to the interesting parts of this case that's coming.
As well as the archaic security system that they have in place that's limited to rotating shots that are like synchronized to try and cover everything. But apparently it's out of date and doesn't work as well.
And you can tell that this assistant curator is just getting so mad at Lassie. Like he is being very
It's fair.
dismissive
He is.
and he's being just like a jerk
Grumpy
about it.
pants. Yeah.
I mean, he's not doing his job at all here, and she feels very dismissed, and she should. It's not okay, and poor Jules has been trying to take the opposite, sort of point of view here and calm him down and do her job. But Lassie's being very dismissive.
Yeah, she is trying to like cover for him and try and like soften the blows of Lasser's
Mhm.
kind of rudeness. But to be fair, I don't think Lassie is completely wrong at this point. Mummy goes missing, and so does the security guard that has several felonies on his record.
Sure, you would immediately go there. Absolutely.
Maybe putting out like an APB on the security guard now, having that be the main suspect. I don't think it's that far off of a thing. There is a bit of a bedside manner, or professionalism that he is kind of lacking right now. So
Mhm.
I get it. Another detail is that the mummy disappeared in 15 seconds, which is interesting, and she thinks that it's something supernatural.
Then at 4 minutes 38 seconds, the assistant curator says, "I want him," and points to the pi points to the picture of Shawn. If you'll remember that they did an episode where they discovered the bones of the dinosaur. And in the museum that they're in right now, there is a picture of Shawn and the bones of this dinosaur. It says discovered by psychic paleo sleuth Shawn Spencer.
Which, if you remember, was exactly what he was said he wanted to do with it. He's like, bones discovered by psychic paleo sleuth. Oh no, it was Zippy. Zippy the dinosaur discovered by psychic paleo sleuth Shawn Spencer. And if you look a little bit closer, you'll see photo by Bruton Gaster.
And they didn't get Gus's name right.
Gus isn't even in the picture. Shawn is like perfectly in the picture. He's got his excavators kit, his little brush, his fossil brush.
Wait, if I'm remembering right, wasn't it that Gus wanted credit for discovering the dinosaur?
If he was digging it up, he's like, I want credit if I'm digging it up.
Right. So he's not gonna be happy when he sees this.
And Lassiter is bummed yet again that the guys are going to be in this.
And Jules calls him right away. It's hysterical.
Almost despite Lassie ever being kind of a jerk.
Yes. She smiles the whole time she's doing it.
Uh-huh. I did think this was kind of funny that Jules calls Shawn to see if he's awake and wants to help on the case. And he is awake. He's working some other case. But the point is that Shawn, answers and wants to be all flirty with Jules. And I think it's funny where he asks her if she's calling because they want to watch a movie together over the phone. I thought that was really funny. And that seems like a really old thing to do.
Did you catch in the conversation that he tells Jules, "You're the one that drunk dialed me," like
Mhm.
she drunk dialed.
All right, so it should be mentioned that when Shawn does arrive in the middle of the night at the thing to help at the museum to help, he notices the exhibit and he notices that they only put one name on it, and he says that Gus is going to be very upset. So I like that even he acknowledged that they only put one name. But so this does actually tell us that he didn't do it on purpose to try and mess with Gus. It was just it it happened.
Exactly. So what
So as Sean got the breakdown of the case, the Lassie and Jules lead him into the mummy room where the assistant curator is, and he does his little thing and flirts with her. And then Jules gives him a look when he does it, and he looks over to Jules and says, "What? You had your shot."
it makes me so sad when things like this happen.
It's so funny at how he just addresses it directly. Because sometimes he kind of like, gets like really subtly flirty with it and doesn't want to
Right.
call too much attention to it. And then sometimes he just like boom.
Just it's blatant, it's just out there, yeah.
Hmm.
I just don't like it. And her face, Jules' face when he says that, and I heard it both ways in this episode while Shawn is inspecting the crime scene,
About 7 minutes 30 seconds in, Sean notices that inside the display case there are handprints, specifically on the inside, as if the case was pushed open.
as well as footprints walking away.
Yeah,
Shawn also in this scene calls Carlton. He calls him Carlito Casiteros.
and that is right before that is right before Sean makes his assessment of the crime, saying that the mummy walked out on his own, which thrills Lassiter.
Carlito Lasiteros. That's fantastic.
So at 8 minutes 50 seconds, everybody's back at the police station, and the chief calls everybody into her office for some reason.
He looked at his watch.
So they come in, and Sean makes a joke naturally, and the chief says, This is no time for jokes, Mr. Spencer." And Sean looks at his watch as if wondering, what time is for jokes? I need to know.
But I'm curious now, like, you have
It's
to
so
wonder.
subtle.
I know, right? You have to wonder, though, what is the news that they're about to get from the chief? Because she looks pretty serious.
I definitely missed that though. That's the first time I noticed that he looks at his
He
watch. It's
looked at
such
his
a
watch.
subtle, funny joke. That's a
Mhm.
perfect Seanism.
The interim chief in this scene does let them know that she has given the mayor a deadline to take away interim and has gotten no response, so she is gonna be stepping down and leaving.
In a couple days by Friday.
Right, and they're
To
yeah,
her credit, it's been 2 seasons of her being the interim chief, and I don't even think
exactly.
we know how long she was the interim at the start of the show. So, I mean, that's supposed to be like 2 years, I think. I think
Right.
each season's supposed to be essentially a year. Um, so yeah, I mean that's definitely fair for them to be like, why have they not pulled the trigger and just made her chief if she's already been there for two
Yeah,
years anyways?
and there haven't been issues with her, like, they've never talked about any, like, negative issues or anything like that that would have kept her from getting that job. So
Hmm.
it doesn't it it's not making clear sense as to
Yeah.
why they haven't changed it. So you gotta give her, credit for going, "Okay, now enough is enough."
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
But it does put everybody in a bit of a bind, especially Juliet.
I
Lassie,
don't maybe more Shawn because she's the one who hires him.
that's true.
And
That
if
is
he's
true, but
gone,
I
now
I
he's
mean visibly, like,
right,
Juliet is, like, the one who's visibly upset, and she's like, "We'll make a petition, we'll call the office and like, protest
right.
it." Yeah.
You just have to wonder what Shawn's thinking is like, "I've convinced her that I can do this, but I don't know that I'll be able to convince the next one."
Mhm.
It's not good it's not a good position. I also have to ask, where's Gus? We haven't seen Gus yet in this episode at all. It's very odd.
I don't remember. See, that's the thing, that I really like about this is one of those episodes that I don't remember. And
Yeah,
I'm glad because I'm enjoying this one. I remember I enjoy it. I just haven't seen it in a long time, so
right.
I'm getting like a fresh look. So I do think this is interesting that Juliet's all upset and worried, and Lassie's response is, "So the job is open." Although I do remember something now that I see Shawn, and Shawn's stake in this or stance on this was, "Are you sure you don't want to just give it a little bit longer? Just wait it out a little bit longer." And
Mm.
I'm remembering now why he says that, but I do think that's interesting now. Like if you rewatch this episode after knowing Shawn's information, how he's behaving now and why he says that. I don't know if you remember the ending, but
I don't. I
okay.
don't. I do think the chief was touched by most of their responses, not Lassie's, but
Mhm.
and finally we have Gus in the next scene.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes 45 seconds in, but
Mhm.
yeah. Back at the psych office, we see him there, and he sits down with Shawn to go over all the museum's recording.
Shawn is has I like how Shawn was covering the TV so that Gus would not see the sign
Mhm.
with his
And
name
we
not on it.
do know that they're well. That's not why. That's not why. See,
Oh.
so there's two things. The the exhibit's one, but the other thing is Gus's superstitious attitude.
Oh, well, yes. I'd like to just add that I really hate Shawn's sweater in this scene. It's a little bit Freddy Krueger,
I was
like,
thinking Freddy Krueger too. Yeah.
I don't like it. It's red with the stripes, and it's just I don't like it.
So we're at the museum finally with Shawn and Gus, and they're inspecting the dinosaur exhibit, and Shawn has shown Gus that they didn't put his name on it. And Shawn tries to soften the blow by saying, "Well, they got the photo by," and he's like, "That's Brutan Gaster."
And and 2 and also, he says, "I was appalled, sickened, really," when I saw it.
And Gus wants a new plaque with his name in big yellow letters. Stint curator came over and she introduces herself and she calls Gus Mr. Bruton Gaster. And Gus has an attitude naturally.
He
But then
says
Shawn
wait, wait,
follows
wait,
it
wait,
up
wait,
with,
no, no, hold on. Gus
"Oh,
says,
my mouth hurts
"It's
already this episode. We're
Burton
only 20, like
Guster."
15 minutes in."
He says, "It's Burton Guster. Don't you people have spell check?"
Yeah. But Shawn follows it up with, "Don't mind Mr. Gaster here. He's just antsy." But yeah,
Mm.
he followed it up with the incorrect name, which I liked. They're walking through, and the museum curator leads them back to the mummy room. And as soon as they hit the threshold, Shawn and the museum curator continue walking, and Gus stops before crossing that doorway. Gus
He
is
he
afraid
stops.
of the
He
mummy's curse.
he stops, looks up at the spotlight. He is very adamant that he is not moving from there.
Hmm.
So we see in this episode pause it. Okay, we're finding in this episode another one of those little things that Gus is, like, expert on. He is he is just listing off things about how all of the people that unearthed King Tut's tomb were all cursed. Everybody was cursed. He There are certain things Gus really digs into,
Hmm.
and
Well,
this is one of them.
Gus is superstitious, which is a thing, a consistent like mannerism that he has throughout the entire show.
But
Whether it's
don't
ghosts
you
or
notice though that
mummies or
there
werewolves, like
yeah.
it all freaks him out, and I like that. That's a fun thing to work with.
But there are also certain things that he's, like, expert on, like, that you can tell he's, like, read a ton about, and he's, like, whether it's safe cracking or, all of those different kinds of things, this is, like, one of those little things that Gus is, like, interested in.
Yeah, but I think it's because it freaks him out
It's the
because he does
superstition
it
right.
in future episodes with like the werewolves and vampires and stuff. He gets
Mhm.
like wolfsbane and garlic, and like he has this whole like vampire set, killing set. Like he gets into the things just to inform
Mhm.
himself, which is good.
Okay.
It's a
I
Gus
like
thing.
it. Yeah. At about 13 minutes, 43 seconds, Shawn and Gus are in the security footage room, where Gus wouldn't walk into the actual room. He will watch the security tapes. So they
Mhm.
get in there and decide, based on how the security system is set up in the museum, that if you leave one room, you'd get caught on the next room. Like, so Shawn is going to try and beat the security system,
Yeah.
and Gus is going to watch him do it. A funny thing that happens is Shawn's like, "Call me on the cell." And Gus says, "You call me. I don't get charged for that on my work cell."
And Shawn just can't get past, like, it's not based on who makes the call, it's based on the minutes used. Now they're doing this testing in a full museum. There's people all over the place. And Shawn is doing all this ridiculous stuff,
He's
running through it.
running.
He's wearing like wolf's pelts. He's got like sheets of carpet on that he's like putting up in front of him like a
He's
shield.
he's crawling.
The carpet was a good idea.
It was.
And
There's
we
Steve
get a guest
Franks!
star from Steve Franks. Sean's walking by on the cell phone. I do not have pancake butt, and Franks turns around and looks at him. And you do also get to see how freakishly tall Steve Franks is. hmm
Yeah.
Looking down at Sean.
And that happened at 14 minutes, 54 seconds. So in the museum, when the assistant curator walks in and starts talking to Shawn, and Gus is on the phone with him still, but Shawn mutes him so that Gus can't hear anything. Well, this makes Gus mad because he's like, "This is the first interesting thing that's happened, and you're muting me now." And he starts mocking him. And he says, what did he say, Matthew, about his hair? He's like, "Ooh, look at my hair.
Like, ooh, I love my hair.
I can make obscure 80s references that no one understands." It's so funny. He does have really great hair. We've finally gotten to the point where he couldn't see him on the video footage, and he sneaks up behind Gus and scares him.
Yeah, around 16
Mhm.
minutes, 13 seconds in, yeah, he finds his way back to the security room, and he has figured out how this could have happened. Oh, so fun fact. When Sean is doing all this sneaking around and he gets up like and he tries to hide behind some woman in the museum, that's actually Dule Hill's real life mother, who's playing like an extra. And he says like leave that poor woman alone whenever he sees him do it on the camera's feed. So interesting little fun fact. We're about 16 minutes, 30 seconds in this scene. It's Lassie at the police station, and he is sitting down and having more of an interview, not really an interrogation, with the son of the person that was on his separate case that he keeps looking for in the newspaper, looking for coverage on. He is trying to get the guy to give him permission to exhume his father's body, looking for more evidence. And the guy is not too thrilled on the idea. He says, "We'll have him in and out, real quick. We'll have him back in internal slumber and 1:45 at the latest." It's kind of just tries to like smooth it over.
At 17 minutes, 10 seconds, we have a very upset Gus. They are walking into the museum, and Gus is wondering, "Why are the lights off? Why is no one else here?" And Shawn tells him, "'Cause the museum is closed." Well, Gus is not happy that they're walking into a closed museum and gonna be there at night.
hmm Yeah, so yeah, Sean has signed them up for night guard duty since the other guard has, gone AWOL.
Gus is trying everything he can to get out of there.
So Sean is trying his hardest to get Gus on board with staying in the museum, even comparing it to, haven't you ever wanted to spend the night in a museum? which is a clear reference to the movie
Maybe night.
with
But
Ben
Gus
Stiller.
says, "I can't spend the night in the museum, Shawn. I don't have my toothbrush. I don't have my multivitamins."
And I don't want my soul to be damned to eternal damnation for disturbing the grave of a canal digger.
Egyptian canal digger.
Yeah. So at 18 minutes 40 seconds, the Gus has been trying to escape through every exit that he can find in the museum, and one of the exits on the side, near the side, like loading doors, is it's a windowed door. And while Gus is trying to escape, Shawn can see out it, and up on the hill, through like the moonlight, he sees the outline of what looks like a camera on a tripod, which is very interesting. With its placement, it might have caught something for that happened, depending on when it was there and if it was recording, like how long it was, that kind of thing. So he kind of retains that for later. Because right now they are stuck. At this time, Juliet calls with a break in the case.
So at 19 minutes, 19 seconds, they have now talked to Jules and found out that the security guard's truck had been in the shop.
Also, that his history is much more violent than they previously thought.
Right. And the guys are looking out the window of the museum that they can't get out of, and they see that right next to the blueberry is the truck.
Is the loaner truck that he has.
Right. And the look of worry on Gus's face is just
Amazing.
it's perfect.
Hmm.
Well, Gus looks like he's gonna cry. Like he's the look on his face is just I can't. I can't. It keeps getting with every moment of that scene, his face gets
Just
more
terror.
right, right,
Hmm.
right.
It is also key here that Gus, whenever he sees the car and is listening to Jules, he drops his phone, and like the battery falls out, and we're supposed to infer that the phone is like broken at this point. So they have lost their communication to the outside world.
I just don't know how Dule Hill did this so well because he literally just he started off with like the worry, and then it was just progressed over a couple of minutes
Because he's a good
so much.
actor.
I mean,
Yeah, he killed it.
he really killed it.
He's really
Really
embodied
killed
and
it.
like I'm assuming even created like the mannerisms of Gus.
It's just so good. Go ahead. So good.
He says we're locked in the museum. Why would I be mad, Shawn? We're locked in the museum with a violent criminal and probably a cursed mummy? And then he takes extra offense whenever Shawn tells him, I told you to charge your phone.
He said,
He
"No,
says,
you did
no,
not."
you did not. And he looks hurt. He looks like hurt. God, this is so good.
At 20 minutes and about 30 seconds in, they walk up to one of the exhibits, and it's a Confederate flag. And Shawn says to Gus, "What is wrong with this picture?" And Gus says, "Everything."
I don't know everything. Just
And
in
then
this context, Shawn wasn't even thinking about it like that.
right, he
And
was
Gus,
going for, like, we're looking for evidence here.
like the
It
details, and Gus is pointing out
right.
the obvious.
Exactly. But then Shawn
Oh
does
God.
point out that the dust
Oh
on
man.
this particular like, the frame of this particular thing
Yeah, it's like a shadow
is
box.
right, right. He points out that the dust is on the bottom, not the top. So somebody had to have messed with it.
And it's also should be mentioned that this is right below one of the security cameras.
Right.
Upon inspection of the camera, you can kind of see based on also like dust that the camera has been tilted up a little bit more than it was before. So there's like a clean spot that wasn't exposed.
So at 22 minutes 12 seconds, this is actually really funny. They are pausing. They're going through this exhibit of like the 50s, like older stuff. They pass a 57 Chevy, and then they go to this old retro fridge. and the fridge starts making like a noise like it's on. I don't know how it happened so fast, but Gus hauled out of there when that noise happened. Shawn looked around and Gus was gone. They realized that why would the fridge be on in the middle of the museum? So
Right.
they open it, and here's our security guard who was in the fridge.
At 22 minutes 40 seconds, we see the daytime guard coming in. This is this old man, just hobbling up the stairs, just grabbing his keys, looking for the
Taking his
right one.
time.
hmm And as soon as he unlocks the door, Gus like runs out the door, slamming him against the wall, and
The poor security guard's, like, on the ground.
and then
He gets back up.
like composes himself.
Gus has taken off.
He was like a sprinter in the Olympics running out of that building, and
He
based
was
on that, it makes it seem like he was there essentially pushing on the door for the entire night, waiting for it to finally open. Like he was ready as soon as that lock unlocked. Oh my god.
hysterical.
This
Oh,
is this is a good episode.
it is. I like this.
Uh
And we haven't even gotten to the favorite thing yet, 'cause we keep going.
Shawn finally catches up to Gus, and Gus is back in the psych office, like online bidding on Wolfsbane and like talismans for protection.
He is seriously very shaken by the whole experience.
Yeah, he still thinks that the mummy is killing people.
Shawn tells Gus. Oh my god. In this scene, Shawn is trying so hard to tell Gus, "Hey, get it together. I need you for this case." He says, "I need you. I need the sweet blue shirt. I need the pants. I need the winsome smile that hides the Jamaican clown
A
inside."
sad Jamaican clown inside. And Gus is like,
He's like taken
it
aback by
seems,
it.
yeah, he's a
It's
little
like,
bit puzzled for like a split second, and then he gets
but
back
it's
on
like a
base.
pep talk. It's like a pep talk.
hmm
So funny.
Inspiration.
Yes.
But Shawn does promise him that they're not going back to the museum. This in this scene, the guys came to catch up with Juliet and Lester.
Well, let's establish first that this scene is taking place where Lassiter is having the body exhumed
Right. So they're at the
for the
graveyard.
other
They're
case,
raising
yeah.
the coffin out of the ground, which thrills Gus. Yeah. So Juliet's there with the autopsy report. The security guard was strangled, and that they couldn't get prints off of the strangulation marks because the hands were covered in linen that had dust and spores in the marks that were over 3,000 years old, which is just more proof for Gus that the mummy came to life, broke out of the display, found the security guard, and strangled him, and then
Right.
escaped from the museum and is on the loose.
So at this point, all logic is just left Gus's being.
hmm And Shawn is super confident that it was not a mummy, but is irritated that he has to keep like fighting this evidence for
Right.
Gus.
Now we go to Henry's house. As usual, Shawn always wants Henry's take on things. Okay, we are at 25 minutes and 18 seconds, and we have our pineapple sighting for this episode. They're at Henry's house, and he has a pineapple mixed in with other like produce that he's gotten from the store on the counter. So
And
that's our
Gus
pineapple.
cannot stop eyeing the cupcakes and cookies on the island. Although we do also notice in this scene that Henry is cleaning almost
Mhm.
manically.
And he's got a lot of food there. Something's
hmm
gonna happen.
Henry continues to be weird with Shawn, and he's like, "Can I talk to you like privately? Like, can I talk to you without Gus later?" And Shawn's just like, this is Gus. Whatever you got to talk about, just talk about it. He's been there their whole life. And Henry continues to be weird, and he ends up not even telling him because he's too like anxious or embarrassed about like what he's trying to talk to him about. Like he asked him like if he's free on Saturday, but he didn't say anything about why. Shawn is very confused as to like why his dad is anxious like this.
Yeah.
In this scene, we're back at the police station, we're in the chief's office. Juliet and Lassiter are kind of, well, Lassiter's kind of just there, but Juliet and the chief are talking about like essentially a going away party for the chief whenever she leaves, if she doesn't get a call back. And Lassiter overhears a news report on the TV about his case, about the Wiles that died, that the case that he's on. And on top of not hearing about or about hearing that that Lassiter wasn't available for comment, and he's kind of upset that he didn't, missed his spotlight. We do also hear some stuff on the news that is useful for us later on. Part of it was an image of Mr. Wiles standing in front of like the gun display case,
Mhm.
and that he was an avid collector of war memorabilia.
And if we look back when they were found that
Confederate flag,
information, the Confederate flag
the
underneath
camera.
that,
Mhm.
yeah, right underneath that was a
Display case filled with like old guns. And Shawn went out of the way to notate that one of the guns did have like a cracked handle. And he's like,
mhm,
it's not even nice guns, they're damaged. So back in the psych office, Shawn and Gus are talking about the essential trail of the mummy. They have paperwork stating that the mummy went to like three or two other museum locations in different parts of the country,
mhm.
and there was no incidents of face meltings or people dying and being shoved into refrigerators. Which, if this was some sort of cursed mummy thing, it seems like it would follow the mummy. But I think that's pretty solid evidence that it's not a mummy.
Right.
Mm. And Gus seems like he might be. I'm not going to say like his mind's changed because he's still freaked out,
Yeah, but
but
it feels like
he
he's
is
considering it a little bit.
he is considering it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's not closed to it anymore.
But this does lead them back to the museum to where it was shipped in. All right, so we are back at the like shipping department for the museum, and we do get a Gus nickname. Of He introduces him to the shipping guy as Patty Simcox. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure Barb
We'll
will.
we'll cover it.
Okay, but yes, we do get a. This is nickname, silly nickname for Gus.
Mhm,
Now, while talking to the guy, Shawn sees somebody coming out to he sees the tripod that he saw that night when they were in the museum, and then he also sees somebody coming out to mess with it or to put a camera out, and they start chasing him. And they end up,
mhm,
catching up with the girl, and they find out that she's a film student. They find out from the film student that she is actually like her goal is to get the life cycle of like a flower that's on that hill, and she's doing like a time lapsed video of it for her project for school. But she does say that they do get the museum in the background of the shot. So the guys go back with her to her film studio to get a look at the footage just to see if anything shows up that's interesting or that points in that any evidence.
right.
So at 32 minutes in, they're cycling through it frame by frame with this time lapse footage at like 3 o'clock in the morning. One scene pops up, like one frame, one single frame pops up, and it is a mummy out in the parking lot, like walking behind a van. Shawn is completely shocked, and so is the film student. And he's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this!" And then Gus, it just pans up, and it's Gus's chair empty, spinning from
Just
how
spinning.
quickly he took off after seeing that. Just
That is
gone.
so Gus. That is so Gus. He's like,
Uh
"Nope,
huh.
I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm out of here."
Like he's not even there. He just doesn't
That's
want to be anywhere
fantastic.
near it. But then they notice, scooting forward ahead, that the van disappears. So the mummy stole the van. Gus comes back. He's like, "Great, so we have a mummy on the loose, and the son of a bitch knows how to drive a stick." In this, Shawn does recognize the van. So they head back to the loading dock for the museum, and they see the van there because it was there earlier before they left. And as soon as Shawn approaches it, the van takes off. Shawn also sees that the guy that they talked to before, the guy in the wheelchair in the loading dock, is there with the door open, watching the whole thing. This is easily the best
Wait,
scene.
this is my favorite scene. This next scene is my favorite scene. I can't. I can't.
Oh my god.
Okay, they get into the blueberry to start following the van. And Gus makes like an 11-point turn in the car when he very easily could have just made a U-turn. My favorite was when Gus says, "I don't wanna hit anything. Shawn, this is a company car." They're following this van. The van pulls off to the side of the road and keeps going and then directly runs into a tree. In full Gus character, he says he's not getting out to look.
Mhm. Although I question how they hit this tree. I mean, they're driving down this road by themselves. It's a road, and they just like drive off the end and hit the tree.
Mhm.
Either way, the guys go up to inspect, the van to see if the person's okay and to see who it is. Gus is so afraid.
He's terrified. Shawn says, "I'm so proud of you, buddy."
Shawn does note that he thinks he saw someone running away in the woods and that the door is cracked.
Okay, but they were watching it the whole time, so I don't really get that. Oh, no. So Gus looks in the window and sees the mummy in the driver's seat of the van, and this time, when he turns, Shawn is Shawn has run away.
Yeah, Shawn's easily 60, 70 feet away from Gus at this point as soon as he sees the Gus. And it definitely looks like somebody got out and put the mummy in the driver's seat somehow. And
This
because
was
the mummy's head is like right up against the glass. So as they peek around, it's definitely understandable how they're freaked out.
and I really love that all of this time in this episode, when anything scary has happened, Gus has taken off, right? He has run. He has run
Hmm.
like Shawn can't even find him. And this time,
It's
when it's
him.
the scariest thing yet, it's the scariest thing of the whole episode. This time, Shawn is gone.
Yep.
That was great how they did that. So we're back at the station. They're talking to Lassiter, and Shawn calls him Carly Town. So we've got a couple of cute nicknames for Lassiter in this episode. But yeah, Carly Town.
So this is interesting. We again get some background information on Lassie's case. He's not as interested in the guy's case with the whole mummy thing. He's more interested in his. And on his, he got the coroner's report back where the guy who supposedly fell down the stairs and just like tripped and fell actually received a head wound. He had like blunt force trauma before the injuries
For
from
the
the fall.
stair fall, yeah.
And the thing that, hit him, there was a chip of ivory in his head. So whatever hit him was from that.
At this point, we're at 3624, and Shawn puts things together.
Yeah, so the son is on the board of trustees for the museum. So these cases are tied together that way at
Yeah.
least.
Right, and Shawn makes sense of this and says that he can solve both cases.
But we don't quite know the answer yet. Shawn tells Lassie to call Wiley and the son of the victim and have him meet them at the museum. And Shawn and Gus is like, why can't he just meet us at a well lit Starbucks?
And then Shawn goes, one more time, buddy, for justice."
Oh my god, Gus is amazing.
Mm.
Ugh. Dule kills it in this episode.
Yeah. All right. So clearly we are heading into the wrap up, which Matthew will take care of us for a moment. I just want to call out that we got to give all the props here for the delivery of this wrap up.
Mhm.
When Shawn comes up out of the mummy, what the heck is
Sarcophagus.
that even called? Yeah. So when he comes up out of that it's just like this is it's going to be good when that happens.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
doing a full reenactment, but he did lay down a blanket inside so he doesn't damage the sarcophagus, which
Well,
he let
well,
the assistant director
yeah.
know. In the wrap up for this, we find out that Wiley Jr., the son, was the mummy. He got into a fight with his father, the victim that Lassie's been working on, and he grabbed a gun, one of the pistols off the wall, and hit his father in the head with it. His father then fell down the stairs and died. And he did not know that the murder weapon, the gun that he had, the pistol, was going to be wheeled to the museum as a part of the exhibit. He had to get that gun back because it is a murder weapon now. It also had the chipped handle on it, which he also probably didn't know about at first. That the chip happened whenever he hit his dad with it. That's when Jules and Lassie step in and they figure out what happened as soon as Shawn mentions the chipped handle. But the problem is his plan was to sneak into into the museum disguised as the mummy. When nobody was there at night, he would sneak out, grab the gun, and get out of there. But the security guard caught him, and he ended up having to kill the security guard. He stowed the body, and then he ran out.
2 cases wrapped up. Yay, Shawn. Second pineapple sighting, by the way, second pineapple sighting.
Ooh, that's a good one because it is slightly hidden. Hmm.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Go
All right, so
okay.
we do. Barb did spot one, 39 minutes, 29 seconds. There is a pineapple as a gift to Chief Vic, and it is
Second
actually
the
quite
second one,
well disguised. So that's a good catch. I don't think I would have caught that.
there's a purple
It's got
bow on
like
it.
a bow on it, and then it's also wrapped in plastic, which kind of blends
Cellophane.
in with
Yeah.
the crown.
Yep.
But this is Chief's going away party now.
So the chief gets a phone call while they're all there to say bye to her, and it was the mayor, and the mayor has now made her the actual chief.
The chief has been resolved to the fact that she's no longer going to be the chief, and she's kind of made her peace with it. The guy that's going to replace her was friends with the, I don't know, I guess the mayor. But then, and Shawn is kind of crass. He's not really taking her exit too seriously, but and he says, "Don't worry, she'll be okay." And then she gets a phone call. It is the mayor, and he is literally begging her to stay on as the chief, asking her to keep on going, and she will no longer be the interim chief. She'll be the full on chief, and everybody's ecstatic. And Lassie comes in, and he knows why, and he shows them the paper. It has a photo and like a story about Sauter, the guy that was supposed to replace her, was caught cheating on his wife. And if you look at the photo, that is the case that Shawn was working on at the beginning of this episode.
Yep.
Shawn had the forethought to
He
see, like,
knew.
oh, something's going on here. I mean,
Yep.
one might question how he knew about her being the interim chief, like how he knew about this guy being possibly named the new chief. But it's very cool that they tied it in this way,
It's
that he
awesome.
saved the chief's job.
Yes. Well,
Hmm.
because he knew by doing that, he was saving his job.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, you'd like to give it to Shawn that he was just doing it out of the goodness of his heart, but the truth is, he didn't wanna have to go down the road of, like, making someone else believe him. So this worked out really, really well.
Oh, the photo by is probably Bruton Gaster. Yep. The photo in the newspaper is listed
Yes.
as photo by Bruton Gaster. Chief looks over at Shawn and gives him a
She
sweet
knows.
little look. She knows.
Henry is really, really trying to tell Shawn something. Shawn just wants to leave. Don't wanna hear anything.
But Shawn's being or Henry's being so weird.
Yeah.
He really has to tell him something, but he just can't get it out.
Okay, so the doorbell rings. Shawn opens the door, and it's his mom. And that's where they leave us at the end of season 2.
Hmm.
Ugh, I don't know why Henry didn't just tell him, "Your mom's gonna be here." Like,
Yeah, it
why?
kind of blows my mind that like he made this big of a deal about it. And like they go out of their way in the episode to show like Shawn dropping his phone and it getting broken.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's just such a
But
strange thing. Like, why did it need to be this big of a deal? Even if Henry had weird feelings about it, like just saying like, "Hey, your mom's coming," like he knows that she's gonna show up and it's gonna be a weird thing if he
right.
doesn't know. I just don't quite understand why they did it like this. I am a little bit confused as what at the
I
very least the
too.
intent was.
I don't and I just don't I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know
Yeah,
why
because
they
he
I
made
don't
it
know why it
very
was so
uncomfortable and
secretive.
weird.
Right, right, right.
Hmm.
And maybe okay, so alright, well, maybe it was due to Henry really having a hard time with it because it was gonna be hard for him to see her. Maybe there was so much progress between him and Shawn that it was like, why is the boat getting ready to be rocked? Or like, there could have been reasons. But I do kind of think that Shawn knew it was something like this because he kept avoiding it.
Now that we finished the episode, Barb, do you want to go over your general thoughts first?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
What do you
I
got?
love this. I love this episode. I actually forgot how much I loved this episode. And
Me too.
I find that the episodes that do that are like surprising to me at this point, I enjoy them that much more.
Hmm.
I found a lot of
Especially watch them
my
closer.
yeah, like a lot of my favorite things. The 11-point turn, so classic. So
It
classic
is.
and
That's
funny and
100%
like
a classic.
it's just beautiful. You get the car in this episode. We get all of our favorite characters. There's character development. There's a good case to it as well. All tied in together. Bravo, Steve Franks. You rocked this episode. Love, love, love this episode. This one
Mhm.
is going to be yet another 5 pineapple for me. It
I'm
had
going to
every
agree with
element.
you. I'm
Okay.
giving it a 5 pineapple rating as well. I
Mhm.
loved it. I thought that the story was interesting enough.
Solid.
I thought that there was lots of little jokes. There was a couple subtle jokes. There was lots of mannerisms for both of them. We got to see a little bit weird part of Henry.
And the tie-in from the other episode, though,
Oh
from
yeah, Zippy the
55
dinosaur.
million years later. Yeah, I mean, it was like
65
all of
million years
those
off. Mhm.
things. Yes, you just all of those things. So
Yeah,
well
it
done.
was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I do have issues with the actual investigation, or the case. I do think it's weird that he, in an effort to get rid of the security guard to like cover his tracks, he also had the other. He left the guy in the wheelchair. The was it the loading bay operator
Maybe
guy?
he was getting a
I'm
cut of
assuming he was getting paid, but that's still like
sure.
a loose end. Like, who's to say that guy won't come back for
Mhm.
more money later or blackmail you or something like that? I thought it
Mhm.
was weird that he not only like because he's that's it. That's not just like a theft. That's murder. Like he could
Right.
easily blackmail him, and that guy seemed a little He seemed a little
Or maybe he just
sus.
wasn't done tying up the loose ends yet.
That's true. I guess he could have come back for him later. But the other thing
Yeah.
was is so in order to steal this gun, you couldn't just break in, or better yet, hire somebody else to break in.
But then it would have been obvious, though, that that's what he was there for.
Okay. They could have taken other stuff. They could have replaced it with a different gun, and nobody would have known.
You also have to factor in that does this guy have an ego? Because
This guy got a early shipment of a mummy, a 3,000-year-old mummy in a sarcophagus, removed the mummy from the sarcophagus, dressed up like a mummy, got into the sarcophagus and was loaded into it, sat there possibly for hours, like inside the mummy's sarcophagus, then had to like pre-set up, like move the cameras up so they wouldn't see
he went
him.
through
He
a
had
lot
to
of
watch when they
trouble.
moved. This was like some like Splinter Cell Jack Ryan stuff that was
Elaborate
that was
plan.
kind of crazy.
It was an elaborate
It
plan, but it
was.
was funny.
There's some plot holes I think, but thought that the case was funny and interesting enough to completely surpass that. So
The cameos were
still
good of
5
Steve Franks
pineapples.
and Dule's mom.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
liked
Yeah,
them.
those were all little cool little things. So I liked it.
I'm so glad you also agreed with the pineapple rating. Michael will be happy too.
Oh, yeah.
Michael will be happy too.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see. Let's talk about a few of our notable points this time. Did you have a come on son moment?
And again, for our possibly our new viewers, Come On Sons is something that we didn't love that happened in the episode. I think I'm gonna go with the whole Henry thing. Just the way that whole thing went down, I just felt was very strange, and like I feel like Henry could have just like said it. He could have just said what he wanted to say instead of making it this weird thing and like letting Shawn leave without knowing that ultimately his mom was coming no matter what. And I don't know, it seemed a little bit out of character. I think that's really what it is that felt wrong, is it seemed out of place.
All right, so I'm going to agree with you, but I had like a tie. There were two things for me in this episode. So first was all the stuff about the mom and the way he sort of evaded it and didn't Well, both of them evaded it in a way. Henry didn't tell, and Shawn didn't want to hear, so they both sort of evaded that. But also, I didn't like Shawn flirting with the assistant curator.
Mhm.
I didn't like, especially right in front of Jules. I'm sorry. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is not okay. That is not okay at all.
I like it when he does. I mean, they obviously wouldn't
Mm-mm.
have worked together.
No.
She seems way too like stern.
Yeah, no. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it.
Mhm.
I feel like we're taking the long way to something that just should be. So I don't like that. So anyway. All right. Do you have a wait for it moment?
Wait for it moment would probably be
Wait for it.
there's the initial one of like what's really going on here. Is it like it's obviously not a mummy, but like what's going on here? But
Mine was the gun case. When Shawn notices the picture frame upside down and the gun case right underneath, you knew that there was something there. I mean, you could even say the wait for it moment would be when the news article plays or when the news story plays and they show him in front of the guns.
I remember mine. I could see how that is, but again, I didn't quite like the case as much, so
Mhm.
I wasn't too on the edge of my seat to figure out what happened there.
Okay.
I was more of just enjoying the ride. My wait for it was the thing with the chief because
Oh,
they
yeah.
have written out characters before, i.e., Juliet. She replaced the last character, and it's very possible that they maybe just thought that they could go in a different direction with Chief Vic, or maybe that if their intent wasn't to get rid of her, it was to just create some tension because stuff like that does happen throughout the show where people get demoted or maybe something was really happening with Chief Vic in real life, like, and she had to step away from the show, so they maybe got rid of her for a few episodes, and then that creates some more turmoil. So I definitely thought that it could have been possible that Chief Vic was either going to step away for a little bit or something else was going to happen. I didn't think it was as open as shut as I mean, we know that Shawn and Gus aren't dying in the show. We
Right.
know that, but
Right.
I definitely think it's possible for Chief Vic to have something to have happened with her for a little bit. So that
Yeah.
was my wait for it was to see what happens with Chief Vic. Is she really gonna get fired or is she staying or something else happening?
Okay.
What about an all yeah moment? What happened? An all yeah moment is something that happened we were really excited about. Oh yeah. What do you got?
Okay, so my "ah, yeah" moment was at the end when they showed the newspaper, for the guy Sauter who was gonna be the chief,
Oh,
and it
100%.
was and it was Shawn that took the picture. Like, that was like,
The
yes.
fact that it was like this thing that he already knew about, he was 100%
Yeah.
confident that Sauter wasn't getting the job this whole time,
Mhm.
and it was like his own little secret surprise that he had for the chief.
And
I 100% agree.
I even love that she knew it.
That look that she gave him was awesome.
Yes. They sort of have this little thing, like, where it's so
He saves
like,
her.
they just understand each other, you
Mhm.
know?
She
She
helps him, and he saves her. Like when she
Yeah,
really needs it, he saves her
yeah,
a couple times throughout the show.
yeah, and it's not lost on her, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I do like that. I do like
Yep.
that. Alright, Henry's lessons, do you have one?
For this one, no. Other than dead
No.
bodies don't come back to life, like there really wasn't one. Like I said,
Okay.
Henry was. I think this was uncharacteristic of the
Mhm.
character. I thought it
Yeah.
was weird. So
Well,
yeah,
he was clearly very just thrown by his
no
mom coming
Henry
back.
lessons this time. We already
Yeah,
went over the pineapple. We
we
already
have
found it.
2 pineapples, we already have
Hmm.
that. We have a lot of great silly nicknames in this one.
We have a silly nickname for Lassie,
We have 2.
Carly Town, and there was also Senior Carlito, I think it was.
It was Carlito Lassitero.
Okay, and then there was also Carly Town,
And then we had Gus nicknames. There was Gus Don't Be a
Traveling
Gus
Wilbury,
Don't Be a Traveling Wilbury, and then we also had Gus as Patty Simcox.
and I don't know what either of those mean.
I am about to tell you in the next segment because we have officially reached the pop culture references.
All right, Barb, take us away.
All right, here we go. We're going to start with the movies. He listed off a bunch of movies that all had Martin Short in them. Martin Short famous comedic actor. He was in Father of the Bride 2, which was a 1995 sequel to Father of the Bride, starred Diane Keaton and Martin Short and Steve Martin. And Steve Martin and Martin Short have always made a really great combination. Martin Short was also in Captain Ron, which was a 1992 movie starring Kurt Russell. And he was in a movie called Pure Luck that was referenced as well from 1991. But all the movies he referenced right there in that first little scene were Martin Short movies. Next reference is the face melting off. That was a nod to Indiana Jones, which was a 1981 movie with Harrison Ford, and a bunch of people's faces get melted off when they open the Ark of the Covenant. It was like a whole thing. We also have references to Night at the Museum, which was a 2006 museum movie starring Ben Stiller. The Walk Like an Egyptian reference, that was a song that was performed by the Bangles. Huge hit, #1 song of 1997, originally was released in 1986. We move on to the Catherine Zeta-Jones Entrapment reference. That is a 1999 movie starring Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean Connery. Actually, really, really good movie, by the
It
way.
was. I've seen it several times. It's really good.
Yes, so good. Next one is the Traveling Wilburys. This was a super group. The members of this group were Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty. Please tell me that you know who some of those people are, Matt. George Harrison was a member of the Beatles.
I've heard of Tom Petty, but I
Tom
don't even know who it
Petty
is.
and the
Oh wait,
Heartbreakers.
it's Rush, right? Isn't it Rush? No, that's not it.
Oh,
No.
dear God,
I'm
no.
getting confused. I don't know.
I'm so glad you're not literally sitting next to me right now because I would smack you.
Uh,
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, so many hits, like really just ridiculous. Okay. And Bob Dylan, like I can't okay. I'm just going to move on. They were a band from 1988 to 1991. Grammy winning, by the way. Huge, huge. The next reference we have was Christine. They walked by the 57 Chevy in the museum and referenced the movie Christine. This was a movie that came out in 1993. It was about a 57 Chevy that sort of had a mind of its own and was killing people. It was a crazy car. Patty Simcox is a reference from the movie Grease. She played the annoying cheerleader girl in Grease, which was a, you know, incredible musical with John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. It came out in 1978, and Patty Simcox was played by Suzanne Buckner.
all I heard was musical, and I pass.
You're going to make some people really angry because Grease was amazing. It has lived on all this time. Super classic movie, great music.
Singing unnecessarily.
Wow. I just can't. Can you guys please send some messages to Matthew
Other
about
people
how
will know what I
awful.
mean. Because singing randomly is annoying.
Wow. You're talking about things like Summer Lovin' and Hopelessly Devoted to You and We Go Together, and
For
like I
every
just can't.
person that you think loves it, there's another person who hates it. I am not alone in thinking musicals are terrible for the most part.
This hurts my
I
heart.
haven't even seen the Psych musical, but I will watch it, and
Wow.
it'll be an exclusive for the podcast.
Wow.
First time
Wow.
viewing of the Psych musical. It just
Oh my
it
gosh.
never intrigued me. I don't know what to tell you.
I can't, I just can't. Okay. I really, really, I'm floored by this. Like my 17-year-old loves Grease. That's such a great movie. It's so classic.
Well,
Oh,
you know,
a hickey from Kanicki's like a Hallmark card. When you only, oh my, I can't. Okay.
that was the Happy Days song, right? These days are raw. That was from that show, Happy Days.
No,
It's not
no,
Grease.
not, no,
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was.
no. It's more like, Grease is the word. It can, I Grease Lightning? Like none of this is coming back to you? Beauty school dropout? No,
Nope. I
nothing?
think we should just probably move on.
God, I
Yeah.
just can't. Okay, this is just killing me. All right, the last reference that I had was Snuffleupagus. That's what Shawn kept calling the cir what is it called? The thing that the mummy was in.
Sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus. He kept calling it Snuffleupagus, and that is a Sesame Street character.
I know that
The
thanks to
one that
Stargate
sort of looked
SG-1.
like no, the one who sort of looked like an elephant, that was Snuffleupagus. So,
Okay. Yeah.
anyway,
I know
that's all the pop
sarcophagus.
culture that's all the pop culture references we have. You've seriously hurt my heart today, like, I just can't. I can't. I don't. Okay. I just have to get past it, you guys. This has just been very upsetting.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys sticking around this long and listening to us talk about the show. We hope you guys had a really
Mhm.
great time and enjoyed it. Make sure you check us out on the next episode. So, the next episode of the podcast will again be the Psych 3 movie review. But after that, we will be starting season 3, episode 1. And that episode would be Ghosts.
And can we add that because along with that review of Psych 3 This Is Gus, we are going to do our season 2 wrap up. So you have one more. Well, yeah, you do. You have some time here to send us any information or anything that you'd like mentioned about season 2. If you have your own sort of version of season 2 wrap up, what you thought about it in general, whatever, please send that in. Post it on our Facebook page or email us. But you can email us at thepsychpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
And you can check out our Facebook group and the subreddit, and all those links will be posted below. Until then, though, please, please, please have a great, great holiday.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.